Okay, sorry, can I hop on one more time? Okay, cool. So these are the conditions for that for loop. And so let's say I wanted to for, oh, so if I say for index in range 5, print index. So this will print it 5 times.
Right.
Or if I was, sorry, if I wanted to say print hello. Okay.
So index, how is it able to? How come when you did index, it gave 1 through 5?
It gave 0 to 4 because if I said this, and I comment this on. So it's basically printing. So when the for loop starts, think about it like it's a loop, right? And remember how you were talking about the condition being met?
Yeah.
Range, what range 5 means is it basically starts at 0 and it contains 5 numbers. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. These are 5 numbers. So that's why when you say range 5, it takes on 5 numbers. So in the first iteration, index will take on this value. In the second iteration, this value. Third iteration, fourth iteration, fifth iteration. So that's why it's 0 to 4.
Got it.
Does that actually make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that's all for loops. Let's recap functions, or let's do if statements first. So let's say I create a variable and I say x equals 2. 10. If statements are pretty simple. So I say if x is greater than 10, colon, I say what I want it to do. Print greater than 10. Else, print less. So it's going to print less than 10 here because if x is greater than 10, this will run. If that is not true, this else, whatever is under the else condition will run. So less than 10 is being run. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. And then there's one more part of if statements that I do want to mention. So in this situation, we don't want it to actually print less than 10 because the number is 10 itself, right?
Right.
So we want to add one more condition. So we say elif print x equals to, if x equals to 10, print equal to 10.
Gotcha.
So elif basically stands for else if. So this is what happens. It says, it runs this first. If x is greater than 10, which is not, so it doesn't run this, then it checks this. Elif, else if, so that means if this is not true, then check this. X equals to 10, so print equal to 10, and then this won't run at all. So you may have the question, what is the difference between what I wrote right here and if I just wrote 3 if statements? If x is greater than 10, if x double equals to 10, if x is less than 10.
Right.
The issue there is that if I just do 3 if statements, all 3 if statements will run. One big problem with that is if x is greater than 10, I know for a fact it won't be equal to 10 and I know it won't be less than 10. So why would I want it to check all of them, right? So when you do it in this format of a if, elif, and then else, the computer will basically only check as long as one of them return true. Once it's true, then it stops. So if this was 12, the other stuff won't even run. It will just run greater than 10 and it won't run any of this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's if statements. And now let's talk about functions. So do you have any questions with these so far?
No, conceptually that makes sense. No.
Okay, so let's do functions now. So you have to You have to say define. So this is how it's going to be written. You say define, and then you say function name. So this is where you input something, and then you put colon. And then inside tabbed in, you write code for your. Okay. So if I say define, define function name, and then I have to put parentheses. So if I say define, what we did last time, print hello, n. That means n will be passed in, remember f of x type of thing. So we say for index in range n, print hello. So I want to call it here. So I say print hello 10.
Oh, you're calling the function down there.
Yeah. So does this make sense?
Yeah. For index and range, define print hello. So you're combining a for loop after you're putting a for loop after you've defined a function, essentially.
Yeah, I'm just putting the for loop inside of the function. So when the function is run, that for loop will be run.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So I will comment all of this out, and then I want you to maybe try doing all three of these. Okay. So you can write your code down here. So why don't you try one of each of these? So let's start with the for loop. So can you write a for loop that prints the numbers 0 to 9?
Is index a pre-written function?
No, index is just a variable name that I gave. You can call it anything. You can call it X, you can call it I, you can whatever you want, you can call
Okay.
it. It's just a variable name. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. What's the range we're giving? 10?
You can give it anything. Five is cool.
Okay.
Good. Colon. N is fine.
What's that?
You can just print N. You don't need anything else.
Oh, print.
You need a colon. Remember, for every for if, you need a colon at the end of line 29. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that worked.
Good. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to do one more complex thing. I want you, instead of, I want you to add all 5 of these numbers together. So I want you to basically print after you've added all of these numbers together. So 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. What would that sum be? Can you think of how you do that?
Using a for loop.
Yeah, using a for loop.
So wait, we want one, what do we want the result to be?
The result should be 10.
Oh, no, so the result should just be the sum of all this.
Correct.
It shouldn't be anything else.
Correct.
Okay. Maybe print sum n or something, I don't know.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create a variable called sum over here, okay? And inside here, what we're gonna say is, for each one, we simply say sum equals to sum plus n. Print sum. So after the for loop is done, we're gonna print sum. So if you want to try to see what's happening, so what we can also do is we can print sum in here, so like this. So we can say,
Oh, okay, you created a variable where the value is 0, so sum plus, so you're just doing 0 plus whatever
yes.
whatever there is. Okay, got it.
So if we do it here, it would be 0, 1, 3, 6, 10 for each number added.
No, that makes sense. Got it.
So this is a CS concept right here. The concept here is when I want to keep adding to one other value, I have to create that value outside of the for loop and then keep adding to it inside of the for loop. So the main concept here is creating it before. If I didn't create it here, this would not work, or this would give me a different value. It'd give me an error. Okay.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that is that. That's pretty good. So did you understand?
Yeah, no, that makes
Okay,
sense.
so now I have another question. I want you to write a function based on the parameter n that is passed in. It should find the sum of n numbers. So you're just combining the code we just wrote now to be inside of a function.
Inside of how, wait, you want, come again? What
I
are
want
you
a
asking?
function to do the code that we just did. So a function should take in a value n. So here we did it for range 5, but instead of 5, I want it to be for some value that will be passed in. And for that number, I want to add all the numbers that come before it.
Okay,
So
essentially you want this.
yes, inside of a function. Correct. Colon. You need a colon after 34.
What was that?
You need a colon.
Oh, right. So wait, when do I put colons? Anytime there's a,
Yeah, so like anytime you're thinking of like something belonging to something else, so like a function, for loops, if loops, we'll talk about while loops, any loop, anything like that.
okay. So anytime before an indent as well?
The only time you're going to be indenting is when there's a colon.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You want to do what we were doing earlier. You were trying to find the sum, remember?
Huh?
We're trying to find the sum,
Right.
not just printing.
Sum is equal to. So we need to define sum.
No, this
the
is
same way we
fine. So
defined
don't
it
get
up
okay.
here.
So don't get confused by the variable names.
What was that?
Don't get confused by the variable names. Okay, so you see the code that we wrote earlier? Simply copy paste that inside of this function. That's all we're doing that exact same thing. So like there's no reason to print inside of the for loop. Do you remember like what that code previously does?
Right there, right?
Yeah, so here, so this is what we're doing. So we have to first, okay. So since we called the function sum, we cannot call this variable sum again. So we have to give it
Right.
a different name. So we can
Okay.
call it sum total or something. And so now this has to become sum total.
Total.
Okay, now, since
The
we
first
have a
part.
variable called n here, we don't want to call this n either. So we can call this I, and we want it to be in range n plus I. Oh, okay, so this is the actual code.
Okay.
You wanna try thinking what it does?
What was that?
Does that actually make sense?
Yeah. I'm gonna look over it once more.
Yeah. The only difference is before we said for n in range 5, now we're simply just making that range a parameter. It's a variable that can change.
Okay.
So now if I say, for example, sum 10, sum 100, sum 1000, we can see, oh, let's see why.
Oh, total needs to be small.
Oh, thanks. Good catch. All right, run it. Cool.
Oh, gotcha. Cause we have this this function defined, so you can
Yes.
just call it down here.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. What if
I'm definitely looking over this again.
Yeah. It definitely is a little confusing at first, but it'll start clicking.
It makes sense conceptually. It's just I need to definitely look over this like to get the syntax right, you know.
Yeah, the syntax stuff is hard. You can use the things that are above to help you a little. So if I deleted this and asked you to rewrite one part of it, you want to try that? Okay, so previously we added all the numbers. Now I want you to multiply all the numbers.
Okay.
So instead of doing, there's going to be one interesting part of it, but previously we were doing 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Now I want you to do 0 times 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. But the problem is we don't want to start at 0, but we'll talk about that later. For right now, just do what we did last time, but multiply it every time.
Okay, with a function or?
Yeah, with the function.
Okay. Damn.
You can use the previous examples up there. Like
What was that?
You can use the previous examples up there. Like I wrote the define and then the function name and then the brackets, and you can put in any parameters you need in there.
Oh, right here, right?
9, 10, yeah.
Right here. Define.
Also 13. Like that's how you do it, right? You say def, and then you say the name, and then you put parentheses, and you pass in if you want any parameters or not.
So when I define the function right here,
Mhm.
do I give what goes in this bracket over here?
So you don't put the product in the. So look at in line number 10. That is the how it is. So sorry, I don't. Let me change that. I don't mean parentheses like that. I meant to say. Sorry. Okay, so when I put parentheses here, what I mean is that is something.
Oh,
So
I
define it has to be called def. You cannot choose your own name. You say
right.
function name, and then in the parentheses you say, yeah, you put your parameter names. Look at how it's done in line 13. That's how it should be.
Right. And what is this n represent here?
So you can say any number of parameters that you want. So let's say, for example, I say n comma z comma x. What this means is any time that product is called, you need to pass in 3 parameters.
Okay.
How many parameters do we want for the problem that we have?
Five, right?
No,
Because
just
we're
like
gonna.
1, right? We only want 1. We just want the number that we're going to multiply up to.
Okay. So, okay, gotcha.
So we only need 1. So you just say n.
Okay, n is just the number that we're gonna go up to. So if
Yeah,
it's
and
5, then it would
yes.
be 1 times 2 times 3
Correct.
times 4 times 5. Okay,
Correct.
got it. Okay.
We don't want it in range 5 though, right? What is the range we want it in?
What was that?
We don't want range 5, right? What range do we want it in?
Why don't we want what do we want it in?
So what is the whole point of putting this inside of a function?
The fact that we can call the function.
Yeah. So we should, yeah, exactly. Range n, correct.
Print product. And then here I can define what n is.
Yes, but you don't want to say print product. What are we trying? We're trying to do the whole multiplication thing, remember? Print product is just, that's not going to do anything.
Whoa, what happened?
At the very least, if you say print I or print n, that makes sense. Print product, you cannot print product. Product is the actual function name.
Okay. All right. Here I could say something like n equals 5. If I run it, it will work.
No, your function is not doing anything right now. It's just a for loop that has nothing inside of it.
Okay.
Do you remember what we did last time? Remember how we have to keep incrementing? We have to make a variable. We have to add to it. Remember that stuff?
Right.
You have to do that. So we have to start with 0. So say like sum equals to 0 or something, right? After line 30.
Here? Up here we need to find that?
Yeah, before the for loop, right? So you say sum equals to 0. And then you say inside the for loop, sum equals to sum times I. That was the whole point of this, remember?
Right.
Keep multiplying. At some point, you have to do some multiplication because we're trying to get the product. So over here, we just say sum equals to sum times I. And then at the end of the for loop, you say print sum. And then now if you want to call the function, how do you call it? What do you say?
You give a value for n, right?
So you say product, correct. You have to call the function. You have to say product, and then you say some value for n. So you say no, you say product and then parentheses and then the value you want. Yeah, now run this. So it's going to print 0. Can you guess why?
Because it's gonna start. It's always gonna start with 0.
Correct. So how we can fix that is we can just do this: 1, comma. Okay. 120, which is this is just the
5 factorial. Or whatever.
yeah. Correct. So now
Okay.
try another one. Try like 10 or 3 or something. I don't know. Do another one.
What is this syntax right here for range? 1,
Okay,
comma.
so when I say range n, right?
Yeah.
Range n, can you tell me range 5, what numbers does this include?
Range 5.
Yeah, what
Sorry.
numbers are these? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If I say range 1, comma 5, this starts at this value. So it starts at 1.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
But we
So
don't want
that's-
it to go 1 to 4. We want it to go 1 to 5. So that's why I said n plus 1. So then it goes
Okay.
1 to 5.
And then we're defining what n is right down here.
Correct. When we say product 5. But I want you to make sure you're understanding, like, do you understand why we're not like printing product or something that like doesn't make sense?
No, I get that. Because product is we're calling product.
Yes,
right?
it's not something that can be printed, correct?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Print.
So this multiplication thing inside this for loop, that's some like yeah, that's like some logic that like yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's starting. It's starting to. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, because in the computer science concept, so there's like a separation, like this stuff right here, like, oh, how do these the algorithms behind like simple things like this work is separate from understanding simply like the syntax. Syntax is different, so there's like 2 different elements of it.
Gotcha.
So cool. So I mean, we just have to keep practicing because we can't really move on until like you have these 3 concepts pretty like nailed down. So do you want to just
No, that makes sense. All right. Yeah, I can practice another one.
All right, so let me think of a different question. It's because we haven't like worked with strings and stuff. So like right now, there's only so much we can do because it's just with numbers.
Right.
All right, do one where. I mean, the best way to do it is if I just deleted this and ask you to write it again. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You want to try doing the summing one again?
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can do a subtraction one this time. Subtract all the numbers this time. It's the same thing. It's only one. Yeah.
Oh my God. Uh, do I use n here?
Well, I'll let you try it out and then we'll see.
Okay.
Think about what you're trying to do.
What was that?
No, just think about what you're trying to do.
Right. Right.
N is going to be some variable that is passed in, so it could be like 10. Do you remember what we set it to last time?
Last time we set it to 5.
No, we always started at 0.
Oh yeah.
And now we have to do the for loop, right?
Right.
No, so you don't need colon. Colons are only when in the for loop itself.
Okay.
So what is the syntax for a for loop? For, what comes next?
Variable
Correct, good. You can give it any name. So give it a variable name.
for I
Good. What's the next thing? Good,
range,
good,
whatever we want the range to be, right?
good. Which is?
5.
No.
No, 0?
No, what is the whole point of putting it inside? If we just put 5, there's no point putting it inside of a function.
Oh, for range n. Sorry.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then colon. That's a for loop. Good. Now what? We want to subtract all the numbers together. So subtract equals to what? N will be the same number every time. So it'll be subtract equals to subtract minus I.
Okay. So for I, what is this this variable right here? Subtract.
Remember,
minus.
I is going to be the thing that keeps going up. So it's going to be 0 first, then 2, then 3, then 4, then whatever.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So this is it. And then you say print subtract after the for loop. So to exit the for loop, you have to backspace 1. As long as it's inside the indentation of a for loop, it will be considered a part of that for loop. We only wanted to print one number, so you have to leave backspace. Yeah, right there.
And subtract.
And then you need parentheses.
Yep.
Cool. So now let's call this function. Good. So you see how you backspace 1 because you wanted to exit the function. So that's correct. Good.
Okay.
So now all you're doing is you're storing the value 5 into n. That has nothing to do with difference. You've just created a variable called n and you set it to 5. That has nothing to do with difference. How do we call a function? You have to say the function name, right? Otherwise, how will the computer know you're
difference is 5.
You say, yeah, difference, and then you pass it in the parentheses, not equals to 5. If you say difference equals to 5, it creates a variable.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right.
So run this. Good.
-10. Okay, sure.
So that's 0, -1, -2, -3, -4.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go over this logic with you real quick, and you tell me if it makes sense.
Yes.
All right. So all right, I'm starting to get. So the first part, define difference, and so we're just we've come up with a function called difference, and n is basically like
a parameter. It's something that the user will give you.
Right. So n is something that'll be defined later.
Correct.
And below that, we're basically giving what we're going to be doing with n, the logic for what we're going to be doing with n.
Very good.
And we've come up with subtract is equal to 0. And that's just a variable there for now. And for I, which could be whatever number, that's in range n. So now we've given, now that we've used range, it gives us an idea. It tells us what we're actually going to be doing with that function, right? Because until then, n could have been whatever. Am I right or no?
N can still be n is just a value.
N can still be whatever number. No, I get that, but until then, it doesn't necessarily need to be in order, right? Like 1 through 5. But since we said range, now it needs to be 1 through 5.
It'll be 0 to 4, but like yes,
0 to 4.
yes. In the for loop, I is now defined. Correct.
I is now defined. And subtract is equal to subtract minus I.
So let's say we're going through the first iteration, right? The very first time this for loop is run. What will subtract be before the for loop is run? Just from the previous line, what would it be equal to? 0, right?
Right.
Okay, now we're inside of the for loop. What is the first value that I is going to be?
First value is going to be 0.
Correct. So it's going to be subtract equals to subtract minus 0, which is just 0 minus 0. So at the end of the first for loop, at the end of the first iteration, subtract will still be 0. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, at the second for loop, what will I be? Second
1.
iteration. Correct. And then subtract equals to subtract minus
0
1
minus 1.
will be negative 1. Okay, then what happens?
It'll be negative 2.
No, I will become 2. And then subtract will be negative 1 minus
Negative
2.
1 minus 2.
Which is negative
So
3.
now negative 3. And then negative 3 minus 3.
Correct. And then negative 4, negative 6 minus negative 4 is negative 10.
Yep. And that's what we got
And
there.
then you're done. And then you're done with the for loop, and then you print the total sum value.
Right. So here we're saying print subtract.
Which is just printing the variable, subtract.
Okay. Oh, okay, got it. And negative 10 is essentially subtract.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Good. Okay, so I will show you one function and then you do another one. Okay, so in this function, so in difference, how many parameters did we take?
How many parameters?
Yeah, parameters are how many variables does it take?
It took, there's 1,
Correct,
2.
there's just one. There's only one. This is a parameter though. How many are in here?
That's the only parameter.
So when we call difference, we only pass in one number. We don't pass in two numbers, right?
Right.
So if I wanted to take two numbers, I'm going to call this multiply. I'm going to take in two numbers now. And I'm just going to say print x times y. So if I say multiple, does this make sense?
Multiply 5 comma 6. Okay, yeah.
Yeah?
Multiply, because that's a range, right?
There's no ranges here.
Wait, there's no define
I'm just saying multiply 5.
Oh, you're just
6.
giving two variables?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Similar,
So
can you do more than 2? Can you do like x comma y comma z?
I can do infinite, yeah. So I can do as many as I want. There's actually
And if there are 3, would it be would you be allowed to just enter 2 when you're calling it?
No.
No, that's a
You can't do
mismatch.
it. We will eventually learn, there's some pretty cool Python stuff where like you actually don't need to say how many variables you're passing in and you can give an infinite number. And
Okay.
there's a way to do that. And so then you can either give 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever the user chooses. But if I clearly define 3 to be here, there has to be 3. So let's see what happens if I only use 2.
Got it.
It'll give me an error because it says it takes 3 arguments, but only 2 are given.
For sure.
Okay. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So what I want you to do now is I want you to write a function that will take 2 parameters and it divides the 2 and it prints the value.
Okay.
Think about the format of a function. It's written above. And you also have so many examples. So you want to keep looking. What is the format of a function?
Def.
Cool. There's one more thing you're missing. Good.
The previous thing you wrote, that was a function, right?
Correct.
Okay, so just called it by Just
What are we trying to?
call
No,
it.
no, no spaces. You have to press tab. The division
Oh
sign
no.
is just the backslash. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Why did you want to change?
Um.
So what are we trying to do in this question?
Well, we're trying to divide x by y.
Correct. So you just say x and then the division sign y.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So this won't actually literally print the number
It,
x.
yeah, I won't do it right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll do the operation that you're saying and then it'll print it. So now call this function.
Um. Oh, like as in give values?
Yeah, like call it. Like call it means like, yes, give it values is not what it is, but the way we called it, like for example, how did we call difference n? We said difference 5, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to call it.
Uh.
Good. Good. Now run this. Nice. So did this make sense?
Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's simply just one part is understanding the syntax. That's definitely the hardest part and the longest part. But yeah, you're slowly getting there. Any questions?
No. I'm definitely gonna watch this over.
Yeah, so
Could
you
you just like
typically
email it to
don't.
me?
Yeah, you typically don't want spaces between this.
Oh, between between what?
Like when you like when you call something, you don't want a space between the.
Got it.
Yeah. So good. So that's good. Okay. So the next question I'm going to ask you, it's a little harder in complexity.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think how I want this done. All right, using a for loop. So I'll tell you. So let's say this is the example. So let's say it's called exponent 2 comma 3. This should be the same as 2 to the power of 3. Okay? Which is just 2 times 2 times 2. And I want you to print this function should print. So it's going this function is going to take 2 parameters. It's all you're going to do is use a for loop that runs 3 times to just keep doing 2 times 2 times 2 and then print that value that is stored in some sort of variable. It should be stored in a variable and every time you should multiply 2 to the previous value of it and then it should so this is what would happen. So I'll write it out so it's easier as well. It's the same concept that we've been doing. So we're going to have a variable name and it's going to start at 1. And we're going to have a for loop that goes, since it's 2 comma 3, but let's say it's x comma y. We wanted to do a for loop for I in range y, right? In range y. And you just simply do variable equals to variable times x. So it'll simply be 1, I will be 0, so there's no I being used here. So it'll just be 1 times 2, so variable will be 2. Then 2 times 2, variable 4, and then 4 times 2, which will be 8, and then you'll print var out here. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
It's the same as what we did before,
Okay.
except remember what all those functions we wrote in the beginning of class?
Right.
That's what we're doing here. It's
Okay.
just creating a variable up here and you just keep changing that variable inside the for loop. And every time you just multiply by the first variable.
Okay. Got it. Except this time we're just having 2 variables and using the
Exactly.
second variable.
Exactly. Last time we did 1. This time we're doing 2.
Okay. So. No, now I have to define this, right?
What do you mean?
As in give.
Remember, you don't say exponent inside of there again, right? You're inside the function. You don't ever say inside of f of x. Do we say f? No, right? Think about how we wrote the other functions. When did we, in difference, did we say difference inside of the function?
Oh no, 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 okay. Something else. So uh, yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. You said there is no I in this?
No, you can use whatever you want.
Okay,
You'll soon. You can call it I if you want. You can say for I.
okay.
So do you want to do X or Y?
Why?
Correct.
Uh, um, actually, we'll get to that in a sec.
What do we normally start these variables off as?
0.
Correct. But since we're doing multiplying it over and over, do we want to start it at 0?
No, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
So what is the other value? Usually, when you start a variable like this, it's either 0 or 1. So if it's not 0, it has to be
1.
correct.
Wait, what's the logic behind that?
Because the whole idea is when we think about what we're doing next. What is the whole point of this function? What are we trying to do?
We're trying to have x multiply by itself
Correct.
by the number of times as y.
Correct. So we need to keep storing it into some variable, right?
Right.
So we do 2 times 1, you store that into a variable. And then you do variable times 2, which is then 4. And then you do variable times 2, which is then 8, right? So you have to
Right.
start the variable out as 1.
No, that makes sense. Okay.
So it's the same idea that we did in 32, exactly. Correct, equals. Good. Good. You're almost there.
Power.
What are we multiplying it by every time? Think about it. Are we doing I? Correct. And we want to print it out, but think about where we want to print it.
Right.
What do you think? If you leave the print where it is right now, how many times will it be printed? Is the line that you wrote inside of the for loop?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, because it's indented one, right? So therefore
Right.
it will be printed y times. Now it will only be printed once.
Okay.
So now let's call this function. Very good. Try a different one now.
Okay.
Maybe exponent to 5 or something.
Oh, just it's the same function.
Cool. So that's good. That's a good function. So did it fully make sense how you did that? Because that's a hard one. That's good.
Makes sense.
What
Cool.
did you think?
Dude, it was honestly, it's the syntax that gets me, but if I was, I think if I was thinking about it, the right way, it would start to make sense.
Yeah, once you see the answer, it's very simple, and then but it's hard to think it. I understand that definitely.
So, I feel like I feel a little bit better right now than the beginning of class, so that's good. But I'll definitely have to watch over this video again. Like, so if you could send it to me, you
Yeah,
have my email?
yeah, I didn't upload last one, so I will upload one. Cool. Yeah, so let's think. Let me give you one more. Um,
For sure.
so let's see.
But I definitely want to view this a couple, like probably just once really before our next session. But I want to
Yeah,
get it like,
and I think if you more than watching these classes again, if you just Google like a for loop video,
yeah,
it'll really help you.
definitely.
Because then you'll have like multiple people explaining it as opposed to you've already seen this. But I think for examples, maybe listening to the class would be helpful. Okay, so next, what we can do is, so this was good. So let me write a few and I can show you. So here, X and Y were both numbers, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I don't want, we did this earlier, but let's say I don't want it to be both of them numbers. So I can, I'll say word, comma, num. For I, oh, the reason I wanted to say I didn't matter is you see how in the for loop you never actually use I?
Yeah.
That's what I
Oh
meant.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
point was that you don't actually use the index, you're just using it to make sure that the for loop is running the right number.
You just use it for what?
You're just using it as a counter. It's just making sure the for loop is running the right number of times. You're not actually using the value.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
So that's what we're going to do here too. So I'm going to say for I in range num, print word. So if I say this,
Got it.
okay. So what I'm
Yeah.
doing here is I'm taking two parameters. One of them is the actual word and the other one is num. And so
Uh-huh.
for I in range num, which will make this for loop run that number of times, just print whatever the word is.
Sure.
Does it make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
And so the next thing for, after you go over this, the other thing we didn't really touch on this class is the if statement. So
Yeah.
what we want to do is we want to say if, let's say num is greater than 5, then I actually only want to do this for loop num divided by 2 number of times. But if else, I wanted to do the full number of times.
Got it.
So let's see if this works. So since I said 7, what should let's say I say 8. How many times should this run? Or how many times should it be printed?
Um, if oh sorry, go over the statement again. If number is greater than 5. 4.
Correct. So start must be an integer on line 49. For I in range, I think it's just afraid. You don't have to worry about that, but okay. So it's running it 4 times. Okay. But if I do it 3, how many times will it run? Sorry.
Um, probably 1.
No, because If it is 3, will this if statement run?
Oh, because it has to be an integer. So no, it won't run.
No, don't worry about that. So 3, num is 3, right?
Yeah.
Is 3 greater than 5?
No. Oh, yeah. No, it's not gonna run. Got
So
it.
then this else is gonna run, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And then for I
So,
in range num. So how many times will it run?
um, 3 times.
Correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would say a lot of these things you can also just like come up with quick little questions for yourself and just practice and write it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. For
But
sure.
cool, yeah. So I'll try. Yeah, I'll see how much time it takes to upload a video this long on YouTube, but I will try.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say definitely like search up just some for loop videos, if statements, and functions on Python.
Okay. Might just like copy this from here though.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you can also create a trinket and then just store it yourself.
Oh, store it here?
No. Yeah, you can store it on the website itself.
I
But you
got
just
you.
have to create your own account. But you can do that later.
For sure.
All right, let's
Sounds
go
good,
work.
man. Sweet. Yo, thanks, man. That was pretty helpful.
Yeah, you'll get
I'll
it.
what's up?
You'll get it. Just take your time.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So are you still hanging out with Siddharth today?
Yeah, we're about to go out. I'll get
Nice, man.
SJ things.
Yeah, sucks I can't make it. I'm down to hang out next week though.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, get over COVID. That's crazy. I can't believe you got it. That's honestly so insane.
Dude, I was shocked, bro. I guess I wasn't that shocked because, dude, Omnia was packed, man. I've never been to a room that crowded.
But
Literally,
still,
like,
I really was under the impression that if you had the vaccine, there's no way you're getting COVID.
yeah, no, I was too. I was very confident with the vaccine, but I mean, the truth, I think the Delta variant, it's got like an efficacy of like 60%.
Uh,
Pfizer does. That's what they're saying right now. But like it still prevents against any severe like um illnesses.
you
So
think you
like,
passed it to your parents or no?
what's up?
You feel like are your parents quarantining too or what?
Dude, I've literally not left my room.
Uh,
Like I've
no,
literally
but you
been
were
here and
interacting with them
I
before
usually
you.
have the fan by the window so the air is like recycling.
Yeah.
They drop off food to me right outside my room. So I'll go and I'll grab food, I'll eat that, I'll put the stuff back, the dishes right outside the room. I wear a mask when I go to the bathroom. Like,
I mean, yeah, you
that's
gotta take it seriously because you have it.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
dude, you could probably tell like I probably look a little tired, but like but most of it is probably just because I haven't like trimmed up my beard and stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Like I've just been locked up in this room, but
That is
like my
crazy.
voice and stuff is back to normal.
That's good.
Like I recovered like that. Like it felt like no joke, it felt like getting the second dose of the vaccine.
Oh, nice.
Like I was just like really sick for one day, and then like I feel almost back to normal.
Mm.
But I like my nose is still a little bit stuffy, and I feel like I could be contagious, so I'm trying to just like be careful about that.
Yeah, but I'm down to hoop up maybe next week or the week after. Maybe probably the week after.
Probably the week after, just to
Yeah,
be safe.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. I'll see you next
Yeah,
week.
we'll give it like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna get like tested this weekend again. But
To see if it
uh,
says negative.
huh?
To see if it says negative.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I got an at-home test, which isn't supposed to be super accurate.
Oh, really? I didn't even know you could
And
do it at home test.
yeah, my dad bought one from Walgreens or something,
Oh, cool.
but it's the least accurate one, and it gives a lot of false positives actually. Whereas PCR tests, they're more likely to give false negatives than false positives. This one gives a lot of false positives, but
Mm.
I mean, I wouldn't be. I think it's a positive just because like I have all the symptoms, but um, yeah, none of my friends got it, so
That's good. That's honestly crazy.
yeah.
It was just me, dude.
It's
No, like I said, I think the vaccine works, obviously. That's why I was able to recover so fast. And the other thing was like my immune system probably was compromised. I was barely getting any sleep. Like
yeah, yeah,
we were
yeah.
drinking a lot. Like it was our own like killing
Vegas
our
is
own body.
dangerous.
Dude, yeah, dude, I told I made a pledge. I'm not drinking for the next 2 months. Like I'm just
Nice.
out, dude. I'm fucking done with that shit.
It's always getting sick that does that.
No. I was trying to like I've been like hella like other than Vegas, I've been hella cutting on my alcohol for the
Oh yeah,
past.
yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah, it's just like
Did you
trying
watch
to
the
focus
game
on one
yesterday?
thing. What's up?
Did you watch the game yesterday?
Dude, yeah, I watched a little bit. Yeah. Dude, Phoenix is killing it, man.
Ah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's good to see.
Yeah, they might get their first ring ever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Chris Paul, man. You gotta feel happy for the man after all these years.
Yeah, I really hope. Yeah, two more wins. I don't know. I hope they can do it.
What's up?
Two more wins. They got to put it together
Yeah, for sure, for
for
sure.
sure.
All right,
All
man.
right. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Should we just so let me know about
Yeah, let me hit
how
him
you
up
can
and I'll
coordinate.
text you.
What's up?
I'll hit him up and then I'll text you.
Yeah. If he's down to be consistent about it, yeah, let's stick to what we're doing right now. Otherwise, I'm
Okay.
done to do like once a week.
Okay. I'll let you know.
All right.
All right.
All right, man.
Peace,
I'll
man.
see you.